So one show I didn't end up watching until relatively close to the end of this last season was Interviews with Monster Girls. Don't let the title fool you, it's actually a lot more grounded than it sounds. Part of the reason I think it's stupid to write off anime as a whole is because of just how diverse the narratives you find within it are. There are plenty of shows that embody the absurdity and stereotypes anime is known for, but there are also simple love stories and slice-of-life shows that have little to none of this, and ones with everything in between. As for the show Interviews with Monster Girls, it falls pretty close to the tame end of that spectrum. There's no big bad entity driving the plot, no antagonistic force trying to rain on the parade of our characters, or any climax we're really building to. The story just follows these three abnormal girls in a normal high school. And when I say abnormal, I mean they're monsters. Duh, but it's not what you might think. Because while these girls do exhibit traits you would expect to find in creatures of myth, their monster or demi-nature, as the show calls it, is more akin to small genetic differences. For example, the first girl we meet is a vampire named Hikari. She does drink blood, but doesn't necessarily have to survive, and while she is more sensitive to the sunlight, it won't kill her, or worse, make her sparkle. She's also got a pair of fangs and a sharp sense of smelling and sight, but that's really about it. In many ways, she's just as human as the rest of her classmates. Same goes for Machi, who is a Doulahan, and Yuki, who's a snow woman. But it's this demi-nature of theirs that their biology teacher, Mr. Takahashi, finds intriguing, which is where we get our title. Mr. Takahashi, through interviewing each of these girls, gets better insight into not only their demi-nature, but their human side as well. And in part, it's these interactions that make this such a great show. Because your mileage may vary, but I think it's incredibly easy to relate to these girls. If you were, at any point, part of a group in high school, not even one that was necessarily ostracized, just one that maybe people had a certain opinion of, I think you can relate to them. They're also incredibly cute and adorable, but that's neither here nor there. This is also a great example of a show that lets you dig as deep as you want. What I mean by that is you can go ahead and have plenty of fun with just what it is at face value, a very heartwarming, well-meaning series with some great comedic moments to it. But you can also find a much deeper meaning and more personal connection to this show if you want to, a lot of which is based around that relatability aspect. Because a big theme and plot point of this series is getting to understand these girls and just who they are. Not just their demi-side, but everything that makes them, well, them. I think Mr. Takahashi sums it up perfectly with this line.
It isn't how you're born that makes you who you are. It's how you decide to live with what you are. However, we can't be allowed to neglect the demi-nature of someone either. You can't look at things from only one side. It has to be both. If you only see the demi-nature, you'll miss their individuality. And if you only see the human nature, you'll never understand their struggles.
And this is what I meant by digging as deep as you want. You can see the demi-nature of these girls as a metaphor for any number of things. I don't think there's a wrong answer. You could interpret it as race, sexual preference, mental health condition, or even something like political affiliation. All things that, while important to who you are, should not be and are not the only things that define you. And the show does a fantastic job reflecting this idea, both in overt ways like with the clip I showed you, but also in subtle ways because I can name plenty of characteristics about these girls that are in no way tied to their demi-nature. Hikari is very hyperactive and a bit of a troublemaker who likes to slack off. Machi is very well spoken and a hard worker who is a little bit reserved. And Yuki, while very shy and even fragile in a way through the first part of the show, is later very open and even accommodating towards her friends. Oh, and she also tends to enjoy raunchy comics. This show is really a great exercise in just understanding other people and learning to embrace our differences, be they big or small, and at no point does it feel like they're beating you over the head with this idea, at least in my experience. In the end, Interviews with Monster Girls lets you read in between the lines really as much as you want, and makes it easy to project yourself onto these girls. And I think no matter how deep you dig, even if you just stop at the surface, you will find yourself an enjoyable show that is very much worth watching. It just comes off as nice, charming, and cute in so many ways. And while this show might not be for everyone, if you're looking to get into anime, I highly recommend it because it's just something different that you might not expect. Especially if when you think of anime, you think of giant mecha fights or shows like One Punch Man. But hey, that's just my opinion, and you likely have a somewhat, if not entirely different one, so I welcome you to leave it in the comments down below. I look forward to the discussion. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, let me know by liking it, subscribe if you're new, or if you need further convincing, feel free to check out some of my other videos. This has been On Geek, and I will see you guys next time.